Hey everyone, welcome back to Path to Victory. This is Isaac, and today I just want to make a short video talking about the Tacoma Open and my list that I will be bringing to it. The Tacoma Open is one of the few events run officially from Games Workshop in North America, and it looks like as we approach the registration from BCP, we have about 300 players attending the event. Expect the number to even climb a little higher as we get closer as those last few stragglers sign up, but this is going to be the biggest event in the Pacific Northwest, one of the areas that I really love competing in just because of the community and all the people that I have out there, including my team. And I really took quite a bit of time to really lock in what faction I'm going to bring to this event. Last year I went 7-1 and won the top 3-1 bracket at that Tacoma Open. And I was really happy with my performance. Did a lot better than I thought I would, and I'm hoping to continue to improve from that and do even better this year. We'll see where that will lead me. As I approached the event, I had quite a few different factions that I could have brought, and I really took some time to think about what is going to be the best faction that could lead to my success. The first two that I looked at and unfortunately had to discard were both Death Guard and Knights. Death Guard, I think, are perhaps the strongest army in the game right now, with the flexibility of the different builds, from Champions to Mortarian's Hammer. There's just a lot of strength and flexibility in that army. Unfortunately, I do not own any Death Guard models. That's something I hope to rectify in the future, improving my model availability. I just wasn't able to bring it. Similar army that had the same consideration with lack of models was Imperial Knights. Though I played Imperial Knights for a really long time, I unfortunately don't own enough of the Cerastus chassis to really bring an optimized list. I could bring Canis and some Armigers, which I think could lead me to a relatively good placement, but without the Atropos Knights, which I think are a main core of Imperial Knight success, I don't really feel confident in bringing that list and hoping to do well with it. Originally, I was going to bring Emperor's Children to Tacoma, because this is an army I've been really enjoying competitively, and I found there's a lot of room for player expression and skill. Unfortunately, the meta changed just quite recently with the addition of Knights, changed to lower points and more wounds. It turned an already relatively painful matchup for Emperor's Children into an extremely bad one, and a really common matchup you'll see, especially in the Pacific Northwest and GW Opens. You will see a lot of Knight players, as they're an extremely popular faction, especially in that Pacific Northwest area. So I expect to see a large portion of this event filled with Knight players of Chaos and Imperial variety, which I think means Emperor's Children just doesn't have really the gas to bring me that far in the event. The last faction I really considered was Genestealer Cult. I've done quite well with Genestealer Cult. I've won a GT with them, and they're actually really well equipped for the current meta. Besides Death Guard, they really eat a lot of the top factions. So I really did consider them, but I've had some traumatic experiences the last few GT where G-Stealers were just not able to quite bring me all the way, because hitting on 5s is a thing that can happen, especially with some of these top armies where you really need to make sure that damage converts. I don't feel super confident in having to stake my tournament run on this 5-up saves and hitting on 5s that these host ascension builds really rely on, though I will hopefully return to that faction in the near future. The faction I ended up deciding on was Thousand Sons. Thousand Sons are probably one of the best armies in the game right now, probably just behind Death Guard and Knights, and I felt really confident with some of the ways they currently match up into the current meta. There's only two real detachments that you really should be looking at Thousand Sons before the latest data slate changes. It was Warp Meld and Grand Coven. Warp Meld having those OC and model shenanigans that really were extremely painful to deal with, and these unkillable Mulus Vortex Beasts that T10 -1 wound, even from lower strength, meaning Melta Guns were wounding Mulus on 6s. Kind of some crazy power there, and I played quite a few games with that, and I really saw some potential there. But I was already leaning away from it, and when GW released the FAQ for the 1000 codes, they really took Warp Meld behind the dumpster and shot it. Renewing Mulus and Spawn from the Warp Meld pack rule is pretty impactful to the detachment's ability to actually survive, and making it so you take the more wounds at the end of the activation instead of the start means you can't really pull off those combat tricks that were really so integral to Warp Meld's success in the metagame. So we went to the second attachment, the one that I think is actually the best attachment, even before these changes, Grand Coven. Grand Coven is basically the index attachment, the one that you played before back in the index with some minor changes, making the abilities once per game, changing up some of the stratagems. But the power of the list to just table your opponent so effectively is still there in this new interpretation of the index attachment. We have the ability to just pop out these devastating wounds and on your go turn. That is like probably the highest damage ceiling in the entire game. You have the ability to power up one of the best models in the Codex, Magnus the Red, with the full rolls to hit and wound and the plus 9-inch range to just delete most units in the game with just a large number of high strength, high damage shots that also have dev wounds and recover, and it's just such an incredible stratagem. You have such a good ability to like defend and respond with the Fort Field and psychic weapons, which is definitely relevant against some of the meta threats. And there's also the ability to blank damage to keep those larger units alive that I just found so helpful. And that ability to really make those spells consistent with the rerolling your spell strat, which I think is probably, honestly, the most important part of this index attachment. The spells and thousands are integral to your game plan. If they fail, your entire turn can just fall apart. So having that extra security, with including the +1 from Mutalisk and the +2 from Magnus, also having that rerolling all your dice, so even with those low variables, you can smooth out them to make sure that you are able to get those really important temporal surges and Doom Bolt off to secure you the win. My list is fairly standard with a few specific changes that I made to help address the current metagame. I did choose to take Magnus, which is consideration that some people have skipped him, going to optimize for more Mutalisk, more Rubik's, etc., etc. But I think with Imperial Knights being so prevalent, he's really necessary. He's able to, like, with the 4-wheel strat and dev wounds, to like chunk off half or more of a knight by himself, which I think is so important. Plus his melee is really effective into certain targets where you're able to shoot one target to death, charge another and kill it, and then you have Magnus in the middle of your opponent's army with another 20 Rubik and Mutalisk War Beasts right behind him. So even if they are able to kill Magnus, you're able to just wipe off everything else that they have on the board. So I think he's integral to this detachment's success, and I will not run this detachment without him. Following him, I do have a few more characters. One is I have the Exalted Sorcerer on disc. The Exalted Sorcerer on disc is extremely important to the early game plan of Thousand Suns. Giving him the bow goats, the 18-inch loan off, make sure you can have these early trades without having to expose more of your army besides, which is really important to make sure that on that go turn, when you send out all your Rubiks and Magnus and the Mutalisk War Beasts, you can still have that damage without losing stuff early. He'll be able to like take those long sights, especially on the GW boards where there's these long open lines of sight, especially on boards such as boards 6 and 4, where there's, you can see from one no man's land objective to the other. They can really put in that powerful flexibility and still stay safe, unlike pretty much anything else in the Thousands Codex. I also have a 2-2 split of Sorcerers and Infernal Masters. Infernal Masters, still one of the goats of the Codex. Just with the Flamer and the Flip, they're so flexible for protection and offense in Overwatch. I've just found that they're still just one of the best units. But Sorcerers have also really impressed me recently. The 9 shots from the Sorcerers have been really allowed them to output that devastating damage you need on that go turn. With the Saints 3, the lethal hits, the Strength 8, you just have so much damage potential from these Sorcerers that the Infernal Masters can sometimes miss if you roll a lower shot count on that Flamer. So I think the 2-2 split allows the best flexibility between the two characters. They have a slightly different role. The main thing is get that damage out. Having the two profiles, make sure you can hit both of the correct damage thresholds between them is super important, and it's part of the reason that I think Thousand Suns Rubik units are so powerful. I have 3 enhancements in this list. The first one, Incandium, gives my Exalted Sorcerer a once per game second Doom Bolt. I did take some consideration to give him the plus 6-inch range, pushing his cast to 30 inches, which goes really well with those Zangor bows at a 30-inch range for their shots and a 30-inch range for the reroll hits spell. But I found that on that go turn, you really just need that extra damage, so that Doom Bolt, I think, is more important than anything else that I can possibly put in this list. Of course, we also took the +1 damage Flamer on the Infernal Master, one of the best things you can possibly have in the game, maybe one of the most powerful enhancements. Often you don't get plus damage enhancements on ranged weapons because they're so powerful, and this is really the reason you can see why they do that, as this +1 damage Flamer can just table like 2 important units on its own with the Overwatch and the shooting. Finally, we put the Unported Crystal, which is the once per game teleport, on a Sorcerer unit. The reason I chose a Sorcerer is just because putting him into a place where I can teleport him and then use reroll hits allows him to really hit those units when someone gives you a space that they weren't planning on a lot more consistently than Infernal Master. If you teleport Infernal Master unit with a Crystal and all of a sudden you roll 3 on your shot count and don't kill the unit you teleport to do, it can be pretty frustrating. Whereas when you teleport that Sorcerer unit and then give it the 4 rolls to hit, possibly extra AP, you really can just say that unit is going to die much more consistently than Infernal Master unit can possibly provide. My list is a little bit light on action monkeys, as they call them, but I still think I have a decent number of ways to do it. The Bowgoats are a pretty good, reliable action monkey with, we have the 6-man with the lone op can start early, and the little 3-man that can run around and do actions on the first turn, or later on if we don't need them super early. I also have one 10-man Zangor units, which can provide a really good backfield screen versus the deep strike matchups, or go forward with that 6-inch scout and provide some forward pressure for those melee matchups where you can scout them 6 inches forward, advance them with the reroll advance from their banner, and then double move them to like put a screen in front of your opponent's melee army on turn 1, which I found is super helpful. Rhinos can also provide a pretty good action monkey, and my list is rather unique with having 2 Rhinos. Most lists have gone down to either 1 or 0 Rhinos, but I took 2 Rhinos for a very specific reason: the Knights matchup. I think Knights is a matchup that is going to be probably my most common hit at Tacoma. And I think Thousands do have the potential to beat Knights. However, it can be a little bit swingy if you don't have the right Doom Bolts, if you don't have them on objectives. So having 2 Rhinos means I can put 10 Rubiks in each Rhinos with 2 characters and each, and then go up, shoot 2 Rhinos, give both 2 Knights, giving both of those Knights +1 hit and +1 wound for my units, and then make sure that those Rubiks can kill 2 big Knights on my go turn, while Magnus and my Mutalisk and my Bowgoats go for a 3rd Knight. Meaning that I can hit possibly 3 Knights down on my go turn, if most likely around 2.5, which I think is a really important break point to make it so this Knights matchup is winnable. I also took this very specific consideration for the Death Guard matchup, which I found is another one of the most important matchups currently in the game, as Death Guard are probably the most powerful army right now. Plague Burst Crawlers are incredibly bad for Thousand Suns. So having those extra transports to hide to delay the Plague Burst shooting into your Rubiks, which are the most important unit in your army on those early turns, I think is super important, which is why I brought multiple of those. Also, going to GW Open, terrain can be super variable. While most current tournaments are really standardizing the terrain to, like, some of the better layouts, like layout 1, layout 2, some of those ones that aren't like super open. If you're going to a GW Open, they use basically all the missions and maps. So you could roll up and hit layout 5 on a sweeping engagement map against the shooting army in round 3, and you don't have enough terrain behind. So those Rhinos really allow me to play a little bit safer on those bad maps for me, versus not having that Rhino would really hurt. And then we have those 4 Rubiks that are going to go inside those Rhinos, which I think are super good. They're basically why Thousands are good. These full roll damage flamers that can just stare straight at you and just delete basically any unit in the game with those character support. It's also really interesting. When we first started, the codex came out, there was like some brief consideration about bringing those bolters, because they went to AP2, you can get them in recover with the icon, you can get them 4 rolls to hit. But I think after testing, I think basically everyone settled on flamers that are allowed to go. You just want to maximize the flamer damage and really just push out the Overwatch, make sure you're hitting those important breakpoints as you shoot stuff on and off objectives. Finally, is probably the most controversial addition to my list, is the Bowgoats. basically every army right now has thousands is basically maxed out on 15 to 18 bowgoats, and I only have 9. This I absolutely made a decision to have that second rhino. I had to cut somewhere. I'm not going to cut Rubik's. I'm not going to cut Magnus. Had to be the bowgoats. I think they're super, super good, but having that second rhino to short my Knights matchup and making sure that my Death Guard matchup is as good as possible, because if your opponent has PPCs, your bowgoats are just dead on turn 1 immediately. So I did lower the amount of bowgoats I really do, and we'll see if that ends up paying off for me. Of course, we also have the 2 Meatless Work Piece, which are super, super important early engagement tools with the Flamer, the 2 damage blast gun, and the Lateral gun. They're super, super flexible. The Mortal Wounds, the Battle Shock, the plus the cast, the melee, they just have so much power for your list that I really think it's important to have them. As we go into Tacoma, I've already discussed a little bit of this, but there's 3 main matchups that I'm looking for. Death Guard, I think I'm gonna while I do believe I can win this, is gonna be a tricky matchup, especially if it is a PVC Mortarian's Hammer. Just they have a lot of damage, a lot of flexibility, but the power of thousands is really I can really push through their durability. One power Death Guard is that they're a relatively durable army, so they won't just die to damage like some Marine armies can. My army will just can table Death Guard player that gets a little bit too forward. So I think that is something that I'm going to have to really watch for and wait for that opportune moment to table Death Guard opponent in a way that they cannot respond effectively when I pair into them. Almost the exact same principle applies to my Knights matchup, where I'm basically just looking for that one turn where I can go out and kill 2 to 3 big Knights and make it so that I have the best chance at winning the late game. If I pair Knights, I'm almost certainly going to be taking fixed secondaries. Fixed secondaries are really powerful, especially if you get that early challenger card with the not scoring early and taking those big kill, because thousands, they can kill Knights, and I'm just going to focus on that if I pair into them with that bring down and assassinate scorecard. The last matchup that I'm actually fairly spooked about is GSC. GSC can be actually a really hard match for 1,000 Suns with the amount of mortal wounds they can put out, the little chip damage that can really hurt Magnus, and just the hordes of bodies. So usually there's not that many GSC players, but I know there is one really good one that will be there, which we'll talk about in a minute. So I'm hoping to really dodge them. They're probably my worst possible matchup that I can pull. So if we hit GSC, we'll have to... I guess we should have brought Emperor's Children instead. Looking at Tacoma, there's quite a few players to watch that I think will have a pretty good shot at winning this event. Of course, I would love if I won the event, though I think that's unlikely. I would at least like to perform well. But if I hit one of these players, I can definitely have a hard matchup that I'm really going to hope to push my player skill to try to equalize. From Art of War, we have Ben Jones and Ben Jarek. They'll both be attending, and both of them are really, really good players. Ben Jarek just won ACT this weekend on the 8-man teams, and Ben Jones has been a really powerful player, especially with Imperial Knights, and that is currently one of the best armies in the game, so I think he'll do relatively well. And I'm excited to see what they bring, and if I get to pair on them, I would love to take that game. Floof, he's also a really, really good player in the area. He will almost certainly bring Hostess at GC, one of my worst matchups, and he has the player skill to capitalize on that. So honestly, if I pair to him, it's a good buy for me. But always a great game because he is a great opponent and great player. Also looking out for Donald Plummer, he's done really well in the Pacific Northwest recently, and with his Death Guard. And we'll see what I have no idea what he's going to bring, but whatever it is, it's going to be a good army, and he's going to paint it beautifully, and I'm sure that he will do incredibly well at Tacoma. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to me ramble about my list for Tacoma. Hopefully I'll do well, but you never know. I'll have another video following to cover my my results at Tacoma, and then after this I will also have some video covering WTC, some of the pod matchups, my list, some different armies that I think will do well, and I hope that you'll come back for those. If you want to talk to me or talk to other people in the community, feel free to join my Discord. We just finished up our 8-man teams event with quite a few players, and it was a really, really fun event. We should have another singles event spinning out shortly. Again, thank you for watching, and hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.